Speaking of weird, did you guys notice that we got censored?
Yeah. What was that?
We did?
No, not on our show, but on the Chiquitake thing page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did notice that, yeah.
On that guy with the glasses, yeah. Holly sent me a message. She's like, I'm going to have to black box that that limbless torso that you guys used for the title card.
It's kind of funny because we the whole episode, well, not the whole episode, but a solid like 15 minutes was a discussion on how offensive this is, and then you put it in the picture.
Well,
I mean, I'm okay. I was totally okay with it, but I understand that they're like standards, on the main page. We can get away with that at BT.
That's what I said to her. I was like, you do realize that we're making fun of the misogyny there. She's like, yeah, I understand. I just don't want people who are unfamiliar with your show to think that you guys are like sick fucks. Which we are, but that's besides the point.
The problem is that people who are familiar with our show are aware of the fact that we're sick fucks. I'm sorry. Like you're gonna censor the picture, but the title remains.
Yeah. I think it's funny when you find out what's off limits. Yeah. So it's great to me that of all the terrible, heinous, unforgivable shit we've said on this show, that was what pushed the envelope too far. Somebody else's bullshit.
I'm like, what still amuses me the most is that Your Mom, the podcast, was a step too far.
Yeah, you never know what's gonna push the buttons. I give Holly all the credit in the world for letting us go on as long as we have.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
You'd think we would have been.
You're my hero, Holly. I love you.
We should have been taken aside many months ago.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that we were going to get a stern talking to by this point in time, But we're almost at the anniversary here. We're only a couple of months out, so that's kind of humbling.
Now that we're talking about this, I'm a little concerned because the next Renegade cut after this one, it's not. I mean, the show is like really, really tame in terms of like content and language, but the title for the next one, I can't say it out loud, but it's almost libelous. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. Hopefully it'll be okay. But
is the title Michael Bay is the Thinking Man's Paul W.S. Anderson?
It is way worse than that.
It's just going to be like Shia LaBeouf is a pedophile.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another disturbing and close-up look at Irrationally Paranoid Conspiracies, the podcast. Today on Irrationally Paranoid Conspiracy Theory Podcast, we're going to be looking at piano-playing cats on YouTube. What's their real agenda? Later on the podcast, we're going to discuss plants. What's really going on? And also, drone strike killed children. What's their real agenda?
Everyone has a secret real agenda on this show.
Absolutely, everybody has.
We have to find out what their real agenda is.
Hold on, back the fucking bus up. Did you just make like jokes about plants and then make jokes about real death?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Johnny. How are we? Yeah, let's spin some comedy out of that.
I was trying to go for kind of like a cross between The Happening and Schindler's List.
Wait, who died? I'm sorry, what?
A drone strike killed children. Children who were killed by drone strikes. What's their real agenda?
The dead children or the drones?
The dead children.
Dead children, I think.
Oh,
They've got a dog in this fight, and I want to know what it is. Is it pro-fluorine in the water? Fluoride in the water? Excuse me, not fluorine. Fluoride in the water? Is it anti-fluoride in the water?
Oh, no. Well, we're off to a good start.
What are their designs for footwear of the future? More or fewer Crocs?
To clarify, we're still talking about the dead children.
Yes. And their secret agenda.
Johnny, I'm going to have to edit all of this out.
About shoes?
Yeah.
Well, many children, tying this together, many children are sort of forced to make shoes in let's face it, dusty countries, and maybe that's why we killed them, to put them out of their misery.
You see, this tenuous connection proves to me that something's going on here, and I'm going to wildly theorize about it some more. How about the oil industry? What dog do they have in this fight? I just used the dog in a fight analogy twice. I'm not going to use that. Let's strike that from the record. Instead, I want to know what stitches on the sail are they sewing? That doesn't make any goddamn sense, but I'm going with it.
Is that a thing? Did you just make that up, or is that actually...
I'm pretty sure I just made that up. If that's a saying, I'm going to be really surprised.
You just coined an idiom accidentally. So there goes our defense that we don't say, like, controversial shit on purpose.
What about lichen? Lichen's got something to do with this, I'm pretty sure.
Like moss or like lycanthropy?
No, like moss, that you would find in, like, a moist cave.
Moist cave.
It would be a lot more interesting if we were talking about werewolves here. Just saying.
Well, it's possible that all of this is controlled by a secret cabal of werewolves.
The dead children can't be werewolves because the drones aren't made of silver.
No, that's true.
So we know. So that's something we know.
Being kidnapped by werewolves, and then their deaths are being faked in order to breed a new world order of lycanthropy-fueled footwear.
I really hope I hit my head earlier, and this is all just like a dying hallucination. This is not happening.
Really? You would want this to be your dying hallucination?
I don't want it to be really happening, is what I'm saying.
I think Austin wishes he was basically in Jacob's Ladder right now.
Yeah, it's such a good movie.
It is.
I'm glad we all agree on this.
That Jacob's Ladder is a good movie?
Yeah, but what's its real agenda?
It's basically Owl Creek, an encounter at Owl Creek. Anyway.
Okay, so video games or no? Yes? No? Maybe?
Even, you know what, let me just say this. Even I'm embarrassed about what we just talked about.
Okay. I'm glad that we're taking a moment to acknowledge it.
Yeah, I sort of genuinely feel bad. I felt
that after all this time, I can still shame you guys.
I'm really sorry that I participated in that. I would just like to say that out loud now. Do not edit this apology out, by the way. I really feel the need to cover my ass. Children died. It's horrible.
I regret nothing.
What the fuck?
Just like that creeping realization.
I know. Well, we go too far.
You guys do understand that. I mean, I'm making by bringing up the
no, I know.
I'm being intentionally satirical of a number of conspiracy theories that do quite a lot to demean and lessen actual real tragedies.
No, I know. Those pop up a lot. I mean, did you see the bull crap about the massacre, basically saying it was all big, it was a fraud and it never really happened?
Yeah, the Newtown, the Connecticut.
Oh yeah.
Guys, are we going there? Is this happening?
No, I'm not making fun of dead children now. I'm saying that.
No, I know. I'm saying, are we going to actually talk about politics and conspiracy theories? I don't know if that's within the scope of this.
I'm just trying to illustrate that I was trying to make a salient point by being exaggerative and.
See, the problem, Johnny, with your social commentary is it's too subtle. You got to be like Devil May Cry. You just got to lay all your cards out on the table and then beat the audience over the head with it for like 6 hours, so they get it.
By the way, I was totally on board with it being satire. That's why I said all that. Yes.
I tried to bring it back to video games.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, do we have to call it DMC Devil May Cry, or maybe just call it DMC or Devil May Cry?
No, the name of the game is DMC Devil May Cry because redundant.
I reject this completely.
That is the least of the game's problems.
Okay, I've never played a Devil May Cry game. I'm not going to start with the reboot. So
maybe should we just start here? I mean, we're talking about a video game. I played it. You guys want to hit this?
We stepped in it. Let's keep walking.
Just don't look back. Keep going.
Is that also a real idiom, or did you just make up the idiom?
I think I just made it up. I don't know.
You are a factory of words, Johnny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as you may have heard, Devil May Cry is a thing that came out recently to somewhat...
I'm sorry, what?
DMC Devil May Cry.
That's better.
Oh, that.
Polarizing opinions, guys. Critics loved it. Fans hated it. It's getting 9s everywhere, but seems like no one likes it. What's going on? I played it. And as is the case usually with such polarizing titles, the truth is somewhere in the middle. It's aggressively okay. It's
I like that.
Yeah, it's
I like that phrasing. That's a fantastic phrasing.
Yeah, it's violently average. I don't know. It's
tension-filled mediocrity.
It is. It's just so
I once said a game was super competent. Does that make sense?
Exactly. No, it's super competent.
Okay.
It has some slick combat. It has a couple of cool ideas, a couple cool boss fights, but it's also really overwrought. It's hammy and not in a good way. Not in the way like Devil May Cry 3 where you get an electric guitar that shoots bats. Like, that's badass. In this game, it's just a lot of saying fuck, and there's boobs and stuff. I guess that's cool. I don't know. It didn't do a lot for me. My review.
It is cool. It is cool to say fucking boobs. I just wanted to insert that real quick. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Something about inserting what?
I just wanted to insert that real quick into the conversation.
Leon wanted to insert something in boobs.
Understandable.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as the detractors would have you believe, and I don't think it's quite as good as some of the more enthusiastic critics would have you believe either.
Austin, are you trying to tell me that the internet is full of exaggerated opinions?
It appears that way. It's shattered all of my illusions about how the world functions.
Jeez, and here I was thinking that it was a reasonable place for people to have sensible dialogue.
Although I will say that considering the way the game ends, I think some of the fears that many people were expressing about this being the direction for the series, I think some of those may be founded. It appears to set up for a sequel. It doesn't seem to be like this is a one-off thing and it's going to go back to the old style. I think this might be the new Devil May Cry. So in that sense, I can understand some of the disappointment, but it's not outright bad.
That can be one of the hardest. That can be one of the hardest things to admit, though, when you're talking about something that's really close to your heart. You know, like actually admitting that it's like not bad.
Yeah.
I had a pretty similar reaction when Splinter Cell Conviction was released. I was like, this isn't the Splinter Cell game that I want. It might be an okay game, but it's not the game that I want.
Yeah, I think I had similar feelings about Final Fantasy XII, where I could respect what they were doing, and I could tell that it wasn't a bad game, but I was just like, It's a thing that happens. I played other games, though. Do you guys want to hear about that?
I want to hear about all of them.
All the games.
Okay, I got to wind up a little bit to what I played, because there's something I actually wanted to touch on last week, didn't get time. Have you guys heard about this? This happened a while ago when The Walking Dead was winning all those Game of the Year awards. There was kind of a backlash of people saying it wasn't a game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm well aware of this. I experienced the same thing when I played Dear Esther last year.
And after talking about Katawa Shoujo last week, as I understand there's people who say that's not a game, and then today, if you look on Blister Thumbs, we had a review go up for Corpse Party, which is a visual novel for the PSP and Vita. And I was talking to Robert about it. He was saying about how he thought maybe the lack of interactivity was a negative. And I said, that's something you need to acknowledge in the review. You need to warn people that this isn't your average video game. But it's not a negative. It's a design choice. You know what I'm saying? It's not inherently bad, and it doesn't make it less of a video game. It's something that I feel like a lot of people have the hard time wrapping their minds around.
Yeah, I mean, one of the to draw an allegory here, one of the things that people go after Final Fantasy 13 for, and I'm not defending Final Fantasy 13, I haven't played it, I know shit all about it, is that it's too linear. To say the same thing about like a side-scrolling platformer would be asinine. It's a design choice.
Yeah, if you try something and you fail to execute it, that is bad. But if you try something and people have preferences for other choices, that's fine. You can have a difference of taste, but it doesn't make the choice bad in and of itself. And where this leads to is, I think, a better question we should be asking ourselves. We shouldn't be asking ourselves, is The Walking Dead a game? Is Katawa Shoujo a game? Is Corpse Party a game? They are. They're fucking games. If your definition of a video game is so limited that you can't imagine that something like that could exist, then I really feel sorry for your narrow worldview, but they are games. The question you should be asking is, does this justify the medium in which it exists? Should this be a game? It is a game. Should it be, though? Should it be a novel? Should it be a film? Should it be, I don't know, a fucking rock opera? That's a better question. And that leads us to what I played, Uncharted Golden Abyss.
I want a Walking Dead rock opera now.
I do, too. For the record, I like the Uncharted series. I think Uncharted 2 is one of the greatest spectacles in gaming history. It's amazing. If you're there for popcorn moments and set pieces, fucking strap in. It's amazing. But the series itself, and it's come to a head in this entry, feels like it does very little to justify itself as a video game. I feel like these are things that probably should be films. In fact, they have been films. They're called Indiana Jones. It's an old observation, but it's so true. I mean, these games are on rails to the point where I don't remember who it was. There was an indie dev who said he'd rather kill himself than work on Uncharted because there's just so little creativity he found to the way that they're designed. And that's kind of where I found myself on Uncharted Golden Abyss. Have you guys heard much about this Vita version of a pretty respected series?
Not a little bit, yeah.
At all.
Not at all, Leon?
Sorry, yeah. I don't do portable gaming or Uncharted, so it's like it's doubly not for me.
Leon is all charted, and it's all at home.
It is.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are fans of Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's,
And
charismatic.
for the record here, I've played Uncharted 1 and most of Uncharted 2 during that very brief and magical spell when my friend Rory lent me his PS3.
I mean, it's the same premise. Charismatic adventurer, there's treasure. It turns out there's some kind of supernatural element. Shit goes down, and then everyone is happy. It's that.
Does anyone rip their heart out at any point?
Not that I can remember.
Kalima! Kalima!
Temple of Doom's the best. I don't give a shit what anyone says.
I agree. I'm sorry. I'm with you.
Leon and me are right. Johnny is.
Johnny, you don't think so?
No, I really don't.
Johnny, you betrayed Shiva.
I believe the Temple of Doom has some of the most iconic moments in the Indiana Jones movies, but as a whole, I find the movie too dissonant to accept as a whole.
You. Anyway, back to Uncharted, guys, because the last games in the series kind of justified themselves a little bit in the sense it's like these huge set pieces you can't get in any other games. They are the pinnacle of just watching shit go down, just like trains derailing, planes crashing. Just there would be a massive effects budget in a film. Uncharted for the Vita is not only small in the sense that it's portable, but it scales so far back on those elements that it doesn't have a reason to exist. There's not a single standout moment in the game.
Can I make a statement about the Uncharted games though for a second? And I might get a little bit of hate for this. They're excellent experiences. They're not necessarily great games.
Yeah, you can decide what order you shoot the dudes in, but everything else is just you're basically just going through the motions of watching something play out.
The thing is that they dress them up really well. Like and that's its saving grace. Like I say, it's an excellent experience, but it's not necessarily a great game because you can sit down and you can play it and you can have loads and loads of fun, not because the game is fantastic, but because the characters are great. Yeah, the settings are fantastic. The dialogue and the writing is clever. There's sufficient enough variety in terms of stimulus to save its pretty one-note mechanics.
Yeah, the voice acting is great. Set design, Naughty Dog knows how to put production dollars into a game. They know how it works.
Just so we're clear before you start writing inflammatory comments, I enjoyed them. I had fun. They are good.
But Golden Abyss takes place almost entirely in one forest and one ruins. There's nothing of any note really happens. All the new characters are flat. The gunplay is obviously a shadow of the full console version.
Is this forest in Hoboken?
I don't think it is. But here's the thing. I could accept a mediocre third-person shooter on the Vita because handhelds don't have a lot of options for third-person shooters, especially not ones that look as good as it does, and it does look good. The problem, my main big, huge, glaring problem with this game is that it attempts to be a Vita tech demo, and in doing so embarrasses itself pretty thoroughly. There's one mechanic in particular I almost gave up on the game. I beat it in one sitting during the playoff game, but it has you have a paper that has light sensitive ink. So to see the message, you got to hold the Vita up to a light source. And if you guys read my review of what was that fucking 3DS book of Memories,
50 Shades of Grey.
First memoir, that thing, 3DS, was the lowest score I had given up to the time. That shit just doesn't work. It took me like an hour of holding my Vita up to every light bulb in my apartment before it recognized it. It was the most aggravating thing, and even if it had worked right, does that sound fun? Does holding your portable game system up to light sound like a fun time? What if I was on a bus or a plane? I would have been fucked.
I think holding a portable system sucks in general, so I'm with you even without the whole holding up to the light thing.
I mean, it's just busy work. It's not fun. It doesn't add anything. It's so frustrating when they try to.
It does raise interesting questions, though, about the concept of video gaming and, like what is... Because, I mean, like, right now I think video gaming is more gray and indefinite than we've ever seen it before. It used to be like, here's your joystick, here's your button, press button, waggle joystick. Now we have things like the Wii, the Wii U, we have the Kinect, we have all these sort of weird tertiary ways of interacting with our games. At some point in time, is it too much? Is it really, or are these just natural extensions of a hobby that's become stuck in this concept of, like, press button, something happen?
I think it's about having appropriate usage of certain, I would say, novel things. The button joystick thing is serviceable for a huge majority of video games. We have it because it works, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Your standard PS3 Xbox controller, that's a thing people are comfortable with because it's a result of years and years of redesign where we've gotten something comfortable and that people understand how it functions. So when we get all the waggling and the swiping and the touching and all that shit, it can add to a game, but I feel it's pretty rare. And I play one more game. I'll talk about a good example of how the Vita put this technology to use. After we're kind of finished up here. I don't know if I would necessarily say that there's any element of being stuck. I feel it's more like companies just trying to branch out and hoping to hit upon the next Wii. Because after that, it was just like, fuck it, try everything. You don't know what's going to catch on. The Wii sounded like a terrible idea on paper, and look at all the money.
In the words of my brother, this is something I think that a lot of game developers don't understand, is that just because your game has a jump button does not mean I enjoy pressing it.
That's some deep stuff.
Deep thoughts from Tommy Maloney. There.
Yeah. So, I mean, Uncharted Golden Abyss for the PS Vita, easily the worst Uncharted game.
More like Uncharted Golden Ass.
It was golden abysmal.
Oh, burn, dude.
Easily the weakest link in the entire franchise, but still, as a portable third-person shooter, it's still pretty slick. I mean,
stop defending it.
I'm just saying.
Leave it in the ditch where it belongs.
I can't name a better example of that genre in that niche. Like, you're not going to get.
Walk away.
Okay, Johnny. Next, I played another game, much better for the Vita, motherfucking Gravity Rush, son.
I hear very good things about Gravity Rush. Have you heard anything about Gravity Rush Gravity Bone?
I forgot about that. We got in trouble because last time we didn't call Leon Gravity Bone.
I know that I'm Gravity Bone, and that's all I want to know. Is Gravity Rush anything like Gravity Bone?
There's a distinct lack of bones.
Oh, man, I don't want it.
As you probably have heard by now, Gravity Rush is the best original game for the PS Vita. The best game for the Vita is probably Persona 4 Golden, but that's a remake. It stars a girl named Kat who can control gravity. You can go just flying all around this huge city. It has all kinds of interesting locations. There's like a New Orleans section full of like jazz music. It's pretty awesome. And then you have
in the New Orleans section, do they have a French Quarter?
There's like a red light district. Like they don't say it in so much words, but there's a couple distinct parts of it. I'm not familiar enough with New Orleans to give you any kind of comparison, but from what I understand of pop culture osmosis, yeah, it's interesting.
Well, continue to talk about it.
I will continue to talk about it.
This warrants increased investigation.
The game stars you as you're like a teenage girl, you're an amnesiac, as is wont to happen in Japanese games. You come across a cat. And
I can't remember the last time I played a Japanese game that didn't feature an amnesiac.
They are rare.
No, that was... never mind, you guys.
I got you, because you don't remember.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about this cat. The cat is adorable. Its name is Dusty, and it is made of stars, like in the literal like Moby sense.
Like in the 2001 A Space Odyssey sense.
It is. It's you have to see it because the whole game is cel shaded, but the effect of this cat, it's like it's a cat, but it's clearly not. It's some uncanny shit, and it's really cool. But that's where she gets her powers. And with the simple touch of the button, you can change the entire gravity of the world, and it essentially lets you fly. That's kind of the way you.
No, it doesn't change the gravity of the world. It only changes the way gravity works for her. Am I right?
Own personal gravity. Well, it's like a range, because if you're standing next to someone and you shift the gravity up, they will go flying upwards with you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool.
They're up there at death. Like you don't get any indication that they're going to survive that, which makes it pretty hilarious. Yeah, it's a game. It's full of imagination. The visuals are great. The music's great. It's actually pretty funny. There's some really cool characters. If there are any flaws in it, I guess that would be the fact that the combat is a little one note. Basically, you just when you're flying, you point your cursor at something, you push the kick button, and she does like a drill kick towards it, and you kick it. Fighting is not the crux of the experience, but if that is a weakness, there it is. But what I want to talk about is how it makes the Vita a better value proposition. Right now, as everyone knows, the Vita is kind of struggling. It doesn't have a lot of things that would make you want to buy it. This is one of the rare things because not only is it so unique, but it actually integrates Vita functionality in subtle and making sense ways, which is a lot rarer than you would think. For example, you want to shift gravity up, right? You can use the joystick or you can move the Vita upwards. It's like either way, it doesn't force you to do something you don't want to, and it's just as fast. It's subtle. Then you have to dodge attacks, you just swipe the screen in the direction and she'll roll that way. And since you're touching the screen where she would move, it's a very natural kind of go over there motion. Doesn't feel counterintuitive. And there's a couple other things like that, but it doesn't shoehorn it in. It all feels very natural. And that's why I feel like it is a better demonstration of the Vita's capabilities than something that was supposed to be a headliner like Uncharted. But with all that said, the game doesn't explain shit about shit. Like, when it ends, you have no clue what happened. I really hope that the rumored sequel materializes, because it might as well have been fucking just a collage of random shit as far as the story goes. Like, it had its own charm to how, like, scatterbrained it is, but there's no discernible conclusion to any of the plot points.
It sounds like the kind of game I would like. It sounds like the kind of game for the G-Bone, which I've decided is the nickname to my nickname.
I like it.
Thank you. Unfortunately, like I said, I can't get down with portable, but it does sound really cool. I got to give it that.
It is really cool. I would almost say it's like something that if Studio Ghibli made a video game, but as of this recording, we are 3 hours away from Studio Ghibli releasing a video game in North America, so I guess that spot is already taken.
Is it Ghibli? I thought it was Ghibli.
It is whatever you want to call it if you believe enough in your heart. The power of friendship makes it so.
That's a long one.
That's what I learned from my neighbor Totoro. You can't take that away from me.
Sorry, I hated Ponyo.
I don't think I've seen Ponyo. I've seen Howl's Moving Castle. I've seen
Loved it.
Totoro, and I think I've seen another one. I can't remember off the top of my head. I need to see more. I definitely do, but I love everything I've seen out of that studio. What else?
It really bothered me that when Spirited Away came out, everybody's like, oh my god, we have nothing like this in North America. I'm like, yeah, except Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, I think, was it Princess Mononoke? I think I've seen part of that. That's Ghibli, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to call them Giblets now.
Studio Giblets.
So, I mean, that's what I played. This week I played Devil May Cry for review, and I played 2 Vita games, which are sharply contrasted. Oh, I finished Katawa Shoujo, but you guys don't want to hear about all my feels. I went into that, so.
You had
cried.
all the feels. I know you did.
Leon, you totally you spilled the beans. I cried. First video game that's ever made me cry.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a particular part. Someone on Twitter was like, which route was it? It was like, because every different route you can go has like at least one heartbreaking moment. It wasn't any of them. I was just sitting there. I was actually trying to write my Devil May Cry review, and I couldn't focus because I kept thinking about it, and I got overwhelmed by all the feels. I had a nice little cry. Finished my Devil May Cry review. It's all very serendipitous, and that shit went up on site. So
word up. You know what I want?
What?
I want to hear what Leon's been playing. He played 2 games this week.
That's true. And one of them is shocking. The first game I played, which is not shocking at all, I played Aquaria this week. And for those listening who just no idea what Aquaria is, it is a PC game. It is really, really good. It is some sort of bizarre combination of Echo the Dolphin, Ocarina of Time, and Metroid a little bit. Basically, it's you play she's not a mermaid, but for all intents and purposes, she's a mermaid, and it's in 2D, and you sort of scroll around in sort of this weird, elaborate system of like sea mazes, like underwater caves, and you learn songs to open things, and you avoid monsters. You don't kill monsters, sea monsters. I mean, maybe later in the game you do, but right now you're just avoiding them. That's where I am in the game. You just run. That's the whole game. You run away from things that will hurt you, and you solve puzzles. And it's really good. Apparently it came out years ago, and then they made a Steam version, and they put it up on Humble Indie Bundle, one of the first ones, and I bought it and didn't play it because I got shit to do. But a few days ago I said, oh, you know what, I should just, I have a surprising, hour to myself. So why don't I just play a video game for, because I actually have free time, and that's rare for me. So I just popped up Steam and said, oh, I haven't played this one yet. And it's really good. And it's pretty. And I don't mean that in it has great graphics, like horsepower kind of way. I mean, it's just genuinely pretty. It's well made. Someone put a lot of care into how it looks. Someone, and I like that look better. When someone says, games that have great graphics, they always say, like, the stuff that looks really real. I know what real looks like. I'm right here in the real world, too. I want stuff that someone put a lot of care into, and it just kind of looks beautiful. And this does. And sounds great. Great music throughout the whole thing. It's sort of this dreamy sort of music that sort of gets caught in your head, and then it starts getting epic, and you're like, oh shit, whatever it is I'm doing must be really important based on the sound this music is making. And it's just really good. So go play Aquaria. It is $9.99 on Steam. I'd say worth it. I'm not beating it just yet. I like an hour or two in, but it's a lot of fun.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate Echo the motherfucking Dolphin for a second?
Amen,
you know what?
Brother?
I played Echo, but only recently. I didn't play it back in the day. I just got the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection for the PS3. Like a couple years ago, and I said, oh, Echo's on here. I never played it. It's good. I didn't finish it because I got busy doing other things, but yeah, it's good. This reminded me of it.
I think I rented it back in the day, but I never got very far. But it was just like, I don't know, I never played anything like it at the time. It was very, very formative when I was just like, whoa, you can do that? You can just have fucking aliens come down? Like...
It's pretty mutant as far as, like, especially of its time.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, when I was playing Echo, like I said, just 2 years ago, I was playing and I'm like, this doesn't feel like a game that came out when I was a kid. This feels like a game that someone just made a few years ago for PC.
Yeah, it feels like an art house indie game from like the future.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
What do we really know about Echo the Dolphin?
They sent it back in time. Time-traveling dolphins, dude. I can't take the word dolphin seriously ever since we did that episode, Dolphin Dildos.
Oh. Yeah, we ruined it.
I totally ruined that word for me.
We ruined all dolphins.
So, Leon, I heard you played a shocking game. Is it?
Yeah. The game itself is not shocking. It's just shocking that I'm playing it right now.
Uh-oh.
Because...
I'm excited.
Because about 3 years ago, I beat it, and now I'm playing it again, which is something I never, ever, ever do.
You never replay games that you beat.
I know. I make a point of this.
Explain yourself, sir.
I make a point of this like almost every other episode, that when I'm done with a game, once the credits roll, I'm just done. I'm never going to play it again unless it's like Chrono Trigger, and then I'll play it like 5 years later. In 5-year intervals. But no, I played World of Goo again just a couple hours ago before the show. Because, and that's the only reason, I'm just kind of, I without going into too many details, I'm alone in my apartment, which is very, very rare. Not to have my wife within 5 feet of me at any time, or unless I'm at work. And it's very strange for me now. So I'm sitting here, and I don't know what to do, so I just kind of popped on, like I said, I popped on Steam again, and I didn't feel like playing more Aquaria at this moment. I said, oh, World of Goo, that was great. But and in my head, I'm like, oh, wait, that's a puzzle game. That's like the worst kind of game to play again, because once you figure out the solution to the puzzle, the charm is gone. You're not racking your brain. But then I thought, it's been like 3 years. I'm not going to remember it. I'm not going to remember how to solve any of these puzzles, and I don't. So I loaded up, and it's still kind of. I'm only on the first. I think I beat like the first 6 levels. So.
And in fairness, though, I mean, World of Goo is not like it's not a traditional puzzle game in the sense that there's like one distinct solution.
Yeah, it's true.
It's very organic.
Yeah, you can get as weird and creative as you like with it. So even if you know what you're doing, you can still like just kind of like fuck around with the system and be like, watch this.
Yeah, it is. It has a good what do you call it? Physics engine, I believe the PC people call.
Yeah, that would be right. That would be right.
It's fun for anyone who's never played World of Goo. I mean, you can get it on WiiWare or you can get it on PC. I played the WiiWare version, and I have the PC version because again I got it on a bundle and it was there, and now I have it. So yeah, and it's as far as I can tell, it's exactly the same except I'm using a mouse. There's really no reason not to get World of Goo. It's just a really great game, and apparently the company that made it, 2D Boy, I think it's called, just released a new one, and I can't remember what it's called, but it involves fire, and now I want to play that.
I think you're thinking of Little Inferno. They do share some development staff. I don't think it's the same exact company.
Oh, is it?
I think it's Tomorrow Corporation is the company that made Little Inferno, but they do share staff.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense.
I will say that I think World of Goo is like one of the best puzzle games. It's like right up there with like Portal in terms of just being super satisfying and have a unifying aesthetic in terms of visuals and music and mood. It might be the first video game review I've ever done was a World of Goo like community review in the BT forums. I'm pretty sure it was like first or second. That game is amazing to me. Everyone should play it.
Yeah, there's this really, I mean, the mark to me of a good puzzle game is that when you beat the puzzle, there's just this eruption of joy, and the game, it really does feel that way. Like when you get those little goo balls close to that basically vacuum tube thing at the very end of each level, it just feels so good. And here's the thing about puzzle games and puzzles in games. To me, there's always 2 kinds of puzzles. One kind of puzzle is someone shows me the goal and you have to figure out how to get there. The other kind of puzzle in a game is you get thrown in a world and you figure out what you're even supposed to do. I have little interest in the latter, but World of Goo is perfect for the former because they say, here's the big tube, you have to get there. Now you figure out how to get there, but you know what the goal is. And so I always know where I'm supposed to go. It's just hard getting there. And I that's exactly the kind of puzzle I want. And that's why I like it so much. It tests me, but it never confuses me in a bad way. It always confuses me in a good way so that I can solve it for myself, and it's good. So that's what I think about World of Goo.
It respects your time as the player.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way of putting it.
I also want to point out that you used a couple of phrases there that you apparently without irony, you said, was it an eruption of joy with your goo, and it feels really good?
I was not thinking about that at all. I was being completely innocent there. Because
you just one after another, you just drop those. You're just like, it feels like an eruption of joy when the goo comes out, and then I'm just so happy and it feels so good. And I'm like, that's how I usually want anything I do in life. That's how I want it to end.
And then I get sleepy.
Do you know what saddens me about World of Goo though?
What? So you're not playing it right now?
No. When it was released, the creators actually managed to basically create a way to figure out how many copies of the game people are playing are legit.
Yeah,
I remember that.
And they discovered that between like 80 and 90% of the installs of this game. And I mean, it wasn't, this wasn't a $60 game.
Yep.
World of Goo launched at like $10, $15. And like 80 to 90% of those installs were pirated. And that saddens me.
I try not to get up on a soapbox, but if you pirated World of Goo, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, not that I condone video game piracy on any level exactly, but if you pirate Gears of War 3, I don't like you, but I'm like, so what? Epic Games, that they will, nothing will happen from this.
They'll be fine.
Right, they're fine, but the people who
but
made
Cliffy B is gone.
Cliffy B will cry if you pirate Gears of War 3. But no, if you pirate World of Goo, I mean, this is like a dinky company that made it, and also it's cheap anyway. I mean, games like World of Goo to me are perfect because they're inexpensive. They're for the cheap gamers such as myself, and they're really great. And they're much better than a lot of games you can get for $60, in my opinion. So go buy it now. I don't know. Go buy if you pirated World of Goo or any other game. Do yourself a favor and just buy it legit now, and you'll feel better. Karma or something, right? Yeah.
And also supporting people who make great games so that they actually have the income and capital to make more great games that you will likely enjoy playing. You're not entitled to your hobby, right? We need to support industries with dollars so that industries exist and that people continue to make games and then we can play them. That's how it works.
Speaking of which, Project X Zone was announced for North American localization today. And I'm going to be super pushy about reminding people, just like Anarchy Reigns and Ni no Kuni, that you should support Japanese things being brought over to America, if at all possible.
I'm all for that. I'm not, I'm the Japanese market and we're like two awkward dudes at a party, but yeah. I'm all for it. I support you, Austin. This message brought to you by the official bureau of Johnny Maloney.
I'm all like smiling now because we talked about World of Goo. Now it's time for Johnny to bring us down whatever drab, stupid, silly PC shit he played.
Drab, stupid, silly PC shit.
Did you play Syndicate?
Oh, God. No. And now when you say that, it's really horrible because the first thing that I go to is Starbreeze. No, I didn't play Syndicate. I played more Dishonored this week, and I finally eclipsed where I got to since the last time. And I'm gonna have to call it. You know what? I'm retconning. I think Syndicate is or not Syndicate. God.
You heard it
my
here.
Tongue. It tastes terrible.
You heard it here, folks. Johnny, Syndicate. Game of the Year 2012.
No, Dishonored. Dishonored, I think, is my Game of the Year for last year. By the time I wrote up my Game of the Year, I hadn't had a chance to really go through it to the extent that I felt like I could authoritatively exclaim, like what it is I loved about it, whether or not it was a consistent piece of work. But I'm in love with this game. I'm in love with its environments. I'm in love with the way that it lets you shape your character, with the way that you can manipulate characters, space, time, and just the sheer intricacy of each setting, each mission, of areas that you can go into that it didn't even occur to you. Like I'm playing this game, letting myself take my lumps where it is. That is like I'm walking into a room, and if I fuck up and somebody spots me or what have you, I'm not doing the whole like quick save, quick loading thing. There's something about this game that makes me want to accept the consequences that I'm creating for myself. And that is something so very rare in a game. And it was something that I really appreciated about XCOM as well. That it was like, you could get yourself into a situation and you make a risky decision and it would blow up in your face. And they even have a setting for it in XCOM where it's like Iron Man mode, I believe it's called, where it's like, no, you got to live with yourself. You have to live with yourself.
Speaking of that, I was actually just having a conversation with Robert, who is playing Fire Emblem for 3DS for review. I can't reveal, obviously, how that's coming along, embargoes and whatnot. But he's let me know, and I kind of heard about this before. But they added the option to disable permadeath. It's very, XCOM. If your soldiers die, they stay dead. What do you think about that? Because I've talked to Sean, I've talked to a couple other people. They say they're gonna enable that, so you don't have to live with your decisions, even though that was a Fire Emblem staple for so long. Do you think that having that option is any way making the game worse?
No, I don't think it cheapens. I don't think it cheapens it at all. There's this very idea that that video games are becoming easier and therefore they're worse is ridiculous. You can amp up the difficulty on pretty much any single video game to the level that you want. No, almost every video game comes with a difficulty slider now. Mm-hmm. And if you really want that balls hard, oh God, I want to get ground down, then it is available to you.
So more options is almost never bad.
More options is never bad. It means a larger audience, and again, like we were just speaking about this with World of Goo, it means that more people are going to have access to it, more people are going to enjoy it, therefore more money is going to go in their direction, and you're going to see more of the things that you want. If you're a hardcore Fire Emblem fanatic, or if you're a hardcore XCOM fanatic, and you're like, no, death is death, that's it, your soldiers are gone, you have that option. It not being activated is your fault. The onus is on you to do it, And that's the thing, is that most of the time, the only games that have ever elicited this response from me have been strategy games, particularly the Total War series or Civilization. Accepting your actions, like making your bed and lying in it. But Dishonored elicits this from me, and I've never played a first-person game. Never played a first-person game where it's like I feel compelled to live with my decisions. And a lot of the time the decisions, too, do evoke an emotional response. It's no secret that Dishonored operates on a kind of a chaos system, where it's like the more violence, the more death, the more chaos you create, the more that alters the world around you. So there are ways to kind of smooth out your way of playing the game, but even then, there are non-lethal approaches where I have felt like shit afterwards, and I'll just be standing on a dock as a boat sails out, and I'm like, oh fuck, I should have just killed her. It really stylistically, mechanically, oh god, the level design alone, I want to write a coffee book about, a coffee table book, and just have it and open it up and look at it. The level design in Dishonored is just fantastic. There's almost no point in time during the course of playing Dishonored so far where I see a place, I see a location in a level that looks like you can get to it, that they're like, nope, you can't go there. There are rules like you can't scale sheer walls, and that roof is way too steep to stand on, that are just common bloody sense. But for the most part, it's if you think you can get there, you can get there. You can find ways around levels, ways over, under, through, beside. It is the way that this game makes me feel as the protagonist is so utterly immersed. I have no attention span for anything else when I'm playing this game. It stresses me out like crazy. I am so invested in it. It is wonderful. Dishonored is one of the best games I've played in the last 5 years, I feel, honestly.
So you liked it?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that.
I still need to play it. It's sitting there. I'll get to it.
I also got started this week on Sleeping Dogs.
So did you wake them?
Maybe a bit. Just a bit. Just a touch, yeah. I've been interested in Sleeping Dog for some time. I bought it when it came out, thinking I was going to get to it a lot sooner, but the life of a video game reviewer is slightly more strictured in terms of what you can play, particularly if you have a full-time job, as I do. But yeah, so I got to play Sleeping Dogs for like a decent chunk of hours this week. Like I think I played it for about 3 or 4 hours, and I gotta say I'm pretty impressed. Again,
did you hit anybody with a fish?
I haven't yet.
Okay,
but it's on the docket. It's on my to-do list. I gotta say too, for like in terms of PC gaming, Squeenix has done it again. Like, they've got a high-res texture pack, their customization options, there's even a benchmark. Like, you can go into your graphics options and be like, this, high, SSAO, screen space, ambient occlusion, I want fast approximate anti-aliasing, put the 3D on, have the depth and the convergence in this, and click. And you can run a benchmark. So it's like, this is how well your game will run with these settings. And it's bloody beautiful in the first place. It is the smoothest open world city-based game that I've played on PC. And I mean, let's give it up for a game not taking place in fucking New York City. And
or some similar city that's just it is New York City but called something else.
Yeah, sorry, Liberty City. Yeah.
Capital City.
Capital City, Metropolitanopolis.
It takes place in China, correct?
In Hong Kong, actually.
Okay.
In Hong Kong, and it's like not only are you dealing with a non-white protagonist.
Ooh.
You know, there's actually like Cantonese is a major part of the dialogue too. So there are characters who speak with no English lines whatsoever. And yeah, and I know that they made noise about this before the game was being released, but the hand-to-hand combat system, which is very reminiscent of course, you know, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City. They've never done this in an open world game. I know that everybody likes to say Arkham City is an open world game. It is and it isn't. In the sense that, well, you know, you're fucking Batman. You can't exactly just like wander down the street and be like, "Hey, let's go buy a fish taco." But I'm impressed by the density of the world, the variety of it, the voice cast. Tom Wilkinson is in this game. Neither of you know who that is.
Remind me who that is.
Tom Wilkinson, have you seen, was it Moonlight Mile?
Oh, I did. I did see Moonlight Mile with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, that was really good. I liked that one.
Yeah, I think he played the father in Moonlight Mile.
Okay.
Or did he? No. It wasn't. Sorry, it wasn't Moonlight Mile. I know for a fact that he was in the Full Monty. God, what else? Yeah, you go ahead and Google. Google Tom Wilkinson.
I'm doing that right now.
But yeah, Kelly Hu is in it. Emma Stone. God, I saw.
Oh, him. Okay,
yes.
I saw his face, I'm like, oh, that guy.
Yeah. You know, like the voice cast is fantastic. The voice acting is great too. I mean, the atmosphere is rich. Like, you know, the level design's fantastic. It's great to not be in a place that's so American, I guess, is the word I'm going for. It's slightly more exotic. It's got, you know, it has a lot going for it. Like, it does a lot of things that open world games don't do. And oddly enough, I really like the driving system. Like, the driving physics are really good. Because they are frustrating. But not frustrating in a stupid way. Frustrating in a way it's like, oh, I see. I do actually have to brake before a turn. But the motion capture's fantastic. There's all these little touches that I really, really like the animations that the characters get when they're walking up or down stairs, or like opening doors or something like that. As I understand it, the plot's not tremendous, and I'm okay with that. I mean, open world games kind of suffer from lackluster plots, but I'm really liking what it's trying to do with the genre. Big fan. I hope to have more to say about it in the coming weeks.
Yep. I'm still planning on playing Sleeping Dogs and the Yakuza series, but get around to it eventually.
Yep.
So as far as news goes, I think we should just hit the Atari story right out the gate, and if we have time for the other one, because the other one sucks.
Okay.
So you guys heard that Atari's bankrupt, right?
Yeah.
And Atari is bankrupt.
Right.
It's not the Atari necessarily.
Yeah, I know.
Atari. Still, I mean, just the fact that Atari itself, which in some small form or any, lasted a long time, and it's a huge part of our gaming past. Well, certainly mine anyway. It was my first system, one of the Atari systems.
I had the 2600 back in the day.
I had the one with the bigger number.
The
97. I don't know. I thought something or other.
The one with the silver decals and like.
I remember it. Was it made of wood or something?
The 2600 had the wood finish.
Oh, they all had wood pen. Oh, well, anyway, I had an old Atari, and I try never to get how do I put this? I can get nostalgic, but I'm not sad that Atari is dead now because they haven't done anything in forever. But any chance of someone well, you know what? I was about to say something, and then I realized that doesn't make sense. I was going to say any chance of Atari sort of gaining a small bit of its glory back is gone. But now I'm thinking, I mean, if it's going bankrupt, wouldn't they sell off their assets to their in the same?
Chapter 11 filing, basically, as we're seeing with THQ right now, means that their assets are going to be sort of cut up into smaller pieces and sold off to interested parties. So any listeners right now, if you're really, really interested in acquiring the license to make a Missile Command movie, now's the time to act. I had a dream about watching a Missile Command movie the other night.
Tell me. I insist upon it.
I'm dead serious.
Go for it.
I had a dream about a Missile Command movie.
Were you commanding the missiles, or were you the missiles?
No. It was about a dude who was he had gone out of the room or somehow been away from this super awesome inspection of this military installation. And then it was aliens were all "Brr, your inspection is now an abduction," and they captured all this military personnel except for this one guy who was all fucking John McClane up in this shit. And then he was going around to all these installations in this city and basically, launching countermeasures, and there were all these scenes of him with a bunch of char and ash on his body with torn clothes on the top of skyscrapers with these shoulder mounted countermeasures going "eat this motherfucker," and shooting up at a bunch of missiles, space missiles that were coming down, and
Hollywood should hire you to do the adaptations for Battleship and Monopoly and stuff
When I have dreams, or I should say, when I remember my dreams, they are pretty damn elaborate.
Cool.
So yeah, Atari, man. And the sad thing is that I do feel a lot of people feel that Atari didn't quite make it into this most recent era of gaming, as it were. That they did their darndest with the Jaguar, but it didn't happen. But we have to remember that for a good amount of time, Atari owned the rights to Dungeons and Dragons. They were.
Didn't they published The Witcher in some regions?
Yeah, they did. I think. I think it was The Witcher 2 even.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it might have been both, for all I remember. They've been kind of on the periphery trying to do stuff, but at this point, it's who picks up Atari's properties. Is there room for any of those? I mean, someone's going to end up with them, but who and what are they going to do?
Someone's going to have to make a gritty reboot of Centipede.
I think what's likely to happen is that we're probably going to see a company who's not necessarily interested in video games as their primary focus pick them up and then try and either tap smaller development studios to make games based around them, either for like the mobile market or, you know, free to play or something like that.
Yeah, mobiles were where I thought too. I was just picturing like Zynga or somebody snapping them up.
Right.
You know, related
Zynga's
to that,
we're in the pink right now.
What?
Zynga.
Okay. No, nothing. Never mind.
No, Zynga's they're in trouble. They're like the insider trading thing.
Oh, I don't follow enough, you know, the business end of it so much. I was thinking about something like a few hours ago when I realized that Atari was dying. I'm not sure what it means exactly. I guess it just means that the industry has changed or something. Back in the 80s and I guess most of the 90s, video game consoles were made by companies that were primarily all about video games. There was Atari, there was Nintendo, there was Sega, and I guess Nintendo lasted, but 2/3 of our console makers these days are basically giant corporations that video games is only a very small part of what they do. And I think it was sort of neck and neck for a while because Sega lasted a bit, but when Dreamcast died, the I guess power shifted is I guess what I want to say. Does that make any sense? I'm not sure where I'm going. I'm not sure. Look, I don't know where I'm going with this. I just want to throw it out there.
No, your concerns are actually there's something that I have complained about the video games industry for quite a long time now. And that is that if you go back in time, even just 20 years, if you go back to 1993, the video games industry was largely managed and metered by people who loved video games. Mm-hmm. They wanted to do video games. Like, you know, they were pioneers of video games. They were lovers of video games. They were players of video games. The industry was really insular in that sense, that it was like, you know, like you say, you had Sega, you had Nintendo, you know, on PC, you had companies like LucasArts and Sierra Online, who were managed and largely by people who were gamers. Even in the days before video games were a thing, they were board gamers, they were card gamers, you know, like they liked playing games. And gradually over time, as the money involved in video games became more and more impressive, it became an industry rife with availability for business. And most of, like, the large developers these days, your Electronic Arts, your Activisions, you know, I feel that these companies, the decisions that get made up at the top, and not even up at the top, but, you know, like, definitely at the top and in varying degrees descending from that location, are made by people who go to school for business, and they see video games only as a business. And they don't play video games. I mean, like, I know that, you know, it's like that awkward moment that you get at a Comic-Con when there's a hot actress who stars in a geek movie, and some guy gets up and asks a question and is like, oh, you know, like, what's your favorite comic book? And then this hot actress feels the need to pander and is like, I really like Spider Guy, or
I much prefer Spider Bro,
Ultra Dude. You know, like there's this, and I mean, I don't want to name names except for Bobby Kotick. I get this sense from the industry that the directions in which the sails are cast, like the ship gets steered, ruddered in a certain direction, all these directions are based on business metrics. There are fewer and fewer people who are involved, I think, in the higher echelons of the games industry who are actually gamers themselves. And that depresses me. That really bothers me. Of course, it's one of the reasons why I was very excited about Kickstarter's success last year, because it gave a little bit more attention, particularly to a lot of people who had been phased out of game development. You know, developers like Brian Fargo or Chris Jones, or the guys responsible for the Tex Murphy games, or a lot of old Sierra alumnus, or Tim Schafer, who, you know, like, hardly phased out, hasn't really managed to make a place for him in this new publisher-centric way of doing business. You know,
I think a lot of people kind of share your sentiment that sometimes we feel like everything's controlled by men in suits. But what would you say to, like, the observation that Sega, who, if we're putting them in kind of the old paradigm of, you know, that back in the '93, and what they've become, kind of like a shambling corpse of their former self, was that kind of inevitable for the old ways to die off, except for Nintendo is just some weird out there exception to everything?
No, because I think that Sega has succumbed to the same problem. I think Sega has succumbed to the same, like, let's run a business way. And it's a bunch of people trying to do things like, you know, bleed the stone, like the desiccated corpse of Sonic the Hedgehog for cash without ever really understanding what it was that made it good. Nintendo, on the other hand, the old guard is still there. The old guard exists. The people who made Nintendo are still pretty heavily involved in the way that Nintendo administers itself in terms of what games they decide to make, what systems they decide to manufacture. Like, it still exists as, in many ways, the company that it used to.
Yeah, Miyamoto's old ass is still there.
So you think it's a matter of personnel? Like you're saying, if Atari...
That could have something to do with it.
Somewhere along the line had not sold, you know, and been split up and moved around and all that, it could have maintained a certain, like, consumer focus and still have been relevant today?
It's conceivable.
It's interesting. I'd like to imagine a world in which Atari is still a major player.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be cool.
Wouldn't you just love to play, like, a really, really cool updated version of Missile Command right now?
Well, I mean, just it's some alternate universe where, like, we have the Wii U, the PS4, and then we have the fucking Atari sex box or some shit. Like, who knows?
No. They would name it after a large cat. It would be called the Atari Liger or Tygon, which are things.
They are like hybrids.
Yeah, lion tiger hybrids. That's how badass, like, the latest Atari console would be. It'd be like, do you know the lion? Yeah. Do you know the tiger? Yeah. It's like both of those, but one.
That's the E3 trailer, cut and print right there.
Absolutely. Fuck yeah.
I think, it's fun to imagine, like, what kind of direction Sega would have gone if they were still making consoles. It's an interesting thought.
What could have been?
Now I'm sad. Someone say something funny.
If ifs and could haves were pennies, I would hurt a lot of strippers throwing money.
Pretty good.
Well, that happened. All right. So, I mean, Atari's dying, but it really wasn't Atari anyway. It's kind of another landmark moment.
Yep.
That is.
Someone burned the corpse of Atari.
Yeah. There's one more story. I think we can hit it and quit it in like 8 seconds. Some jerkholes running their mouth, and they think Microsoft's going to sell the Xbox brand to Sony. That person is wrong. Anybody else? Anybody else?
It's probably not going to happen. I would say it's probably not going to happen. I read the article, and it was like, this is kind of interesting fan fiction. Maybe we could talk about it, but you know, there's really not much to it. Someone at Forbes said this might happen. I think Microsoft is doing okay. I might be wrong, but I was under the impression that Microsoft is still Microsoft.
I mean, Apple's eating a little bit of their lunch, but they're still one of the most powerful companies on the planet Earth. So.
Yeah, because every single office that you wander into around every single business in North America or the world is all like, you know what we need to do? Spend like an arm and a leg and sell an orphan soul so we can kit out our office exclusively with Apple gear, which means that none of our customers are going to properly be able to read our business documents.
Yeah, I think Microsoft will be fine. I just think it's funny that you can just write an article. You'd be like, wouldn't it be funny if this happened? And then it circulates as news.
I'll say this. I mean, Windows 8, I believe now, is an unmitigated failure, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I think we all saw that coming a mile away.
I mean, they've failed to market it to desktop computers. They failed to properly market their tablets. You know, like, I'm sorry, your response to Apple is like, hey, look what you can do, is to have an ad where a bunch of people break dance waving your, like, tablet around? No.
I luckily missed that commercial, but yeah.
You haven't seen that? It's like a dude is like at college campus and he like, you know, takes out his tablet and he like, it's because they have that little like touchpad keyboard thing that you can attach it to because it comes off and it's a tablet and you can like swipe and poke and I don't know, rub it on parts of your body and mix fluids with it presumably. But then it's got this like little like foam kind of like laptop style keypad that you can attach it to, and it props up your tablet, and then you can type on it like it's actually a laptop, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's,
at which point, why not just get a laptop?
Well, I mean, but the thing is that it's interesting in the sense that it's like, okay, you want a tablet, you want a laptop, have a lablet or a tap-top. But I mean, instead of doing like the reasonable thing and actually letting the product exist on its own merits and being like, hey, look at this and what it does, they decide to whip out a breakdance and like a massively over choreographed breakdance that would even look a little forced were it in Glee.
Aware that is a TV show, so I will assume that was a funny reference.
That's me being contemporary and relatable, because I know so many people who listen to this podcast watch Glee.
I don't watch TV except for football. Speaking of, Leon, you see the Ravens game? Holy shit.
No, I did not. I experienced the aftermath of it because I live in Baltimore and I had to drive home from basically somewhere, not anywhere watching the game, but I had to drive home immediately after it ended, which meant everyone was honking their horns and running out into the streets, almost getting run over by, well, me. And just being really obnoxious. I mean, you know what? That's cool. Here's the thing. I really like it when people are sort of unashamedly into things, you know, where they don't pass it off, you know, sort of cynically, like, yeah, I kind of like this. No, it's like I like when people just say, oh, I'm really into this, or you know, I love anime, or I'm a foodie or whatever, you know, I just really into it, or even something I don't give a shit about, like football. I was like, yeah, love me some football. I'm gonna watch football with my friends because I like it, you know, and so I get it, and I don't want to badmouth people for just, you know, genuinely liking something because it doesn't hurt anyone. But you're in the streets and you're driving erratically and you're in the back of a truck standing up while wearing a jersey. You know who you are. I'm talking to you because I totally saw that on my way home, you fucking idiot. You almost died a lot. And I'm sorry, but it was like one of the worst scenes I've ever seen in my life. Driving home immediately after the Ravens won this huge game that apparently puts them in the Super Bowl. I don't know.
Yeah, they won the AFC Championship.
Yeah,
game.
Good for them. You know, again, you know, I don't want to knock anyone's interest. You know, like I said, it's football. It's completely harmless. It's a game where people throw things and catch things. I
will knock people's interest. It is not completely harmless.
Okay, some people get injured and some people use steroids. Fine.
There are brain injuries, cognitive problems.
Okay, fine. But in and of itself, it's basically just some dumb sport. I don't want to, I got my own stupid interests. I play World of Goo. I mean, whatever. But just stop. Don't be obnoxious about it. I really liked the movie. What was it just got? Oh, The Skin I Live In. I just watched it. It was great. But after I was done watching it, I didn't run out into the middle of the street with sparklers so everyone knew just how much I liked it, wearing a sign around my neck that just said, Antonio Banderas was actually in a good movie for once, on a sandwich board or something, and run back into my house buck-ass naked. No, because I'm a reasonable human being, and I just talked about it on Twitter like a normal person.
Please run out naked with the sandwich board into the street screaming about random stuff.
I don't wanna, because I'm a person, and I'm just a regular human being with interests that I'm really into, but not to the point of making a public nuisance out of myself or endangering other human beings.
Speaking of interests, are you guys aware of this thing, anime?
I like me some anime. I haven't been able to watch any in the past few weeks or so, but yeah.
I watched one of those things the other day. It's pretty good.
Oh.
I have been to anime.
Is that a planet, a country?
I just like the way you said it. I don't even know what you're trying to say there. It's just your delivery.
I know that of which you speak.
Okay.
All right, you guys want to wrap this beast up?
I have nothing further at this time.
Alrighty then.
So, please, listeners, unless you want your children to become like Austin Yorsky, don't let them play football.
Is that a bad thing?
I don't know. How do you feel about yourself?
I think I turned out all right.
I do too, Pig. I do too.
I'm sorry, what? Why did that happen?
I don't know.
Was that like, that'll do, Pig?
Right.
Yeah, sort of.
It was, I didn't understand what you were doing.
No, I was pulling from Babe, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well done.
Alrighty then. I guess I'll see you guys next week. Let's see how new ways we can embarrass ourselves.
Seriously, The Skin I Live In was really good. Has any either of you seen that?
No.
Oh, without giving away too much spoilers, it's all. I can't. Wow, there's no way I can even explain a part of the plot without spoiling so much of it. Oh, I'll just spoil the whole thing. Someone rapes a girl and it's horrible, and then the father of the girl kidnaps the guy and turns the guy into a woman through sexual reassignment surgery, and then falls in love with the guy who is now a girl and has sex with her a lot, and then she escapes.
Oh my god!
It's really good.
How? That sounds like the most awful thing.
No, it's actually really well acted.
I'm just gonna take a moment to process that.
Yeah.
I like how you're like, I don't know how to spoil it. I guess I'll just spoil it.
Right. I was like, you know what? There's no way. I really wanted to talk about it, but there's no way to talk about it without spoiling it. So.
That's like a really long-term revenge plan to give someone like hormone replacement therapy and then like surgery to change their genitals that they're functional.
Yeah.
I feel like you should probably just castrate and/or kill the person.
He had ideas. He was like a mad scientist. I mean, you're not a mad scientist if you give people vaginoplasties. That's pretty standard sexual reassignment surgery. If you're a mad scientist, if you kidnap someone and force them to, and then fuck them a lot.
No argument here.
Yeah.